Alrighty, so we're gonna get right into it. So this week we've been working on the helicopter. We've been working on pandemic. I'm gonna start off on some of the helicopter progress that we've had, and then we'll round out with the pandemic progress, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A at the end. So let me go ahead and queue up my share screen. We're going to jump into our test map, and I'll just kind of show you some of the things that's going on behind the scenes. So just give that a second to load up. So my name is Robert. I'm the project director. I do the programming, and I'm basically just, it's like a quick little easy way of just kind of showing you guys what's going on during the course of the week. Okay, so now it's open. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull some of our test units into the game. Let's see, Black Hawk. And then play. Okay, so essentially, we've been working on getting the other helicopters in and setting up their engines, setting up basically their functionality so they all function. Here, let me turn my audio back on so you guys can actually hear them. You're on 20. And let's delete you and turn it down a little bit more. So the idea is that you figure we've been using the helicopters as an incubator for vehicles because they all derive from the same base systems of transportation, weapons on them. So quite a bit of time was put into basically just bug fixing and hunting down their issues, setting up their engine and their fuel consumption, and then just running playtests to just figure out what numbers felt right, making sure they were replicating correctly, and just kind of testing out their quirks in terms of how they move, what are their speeds, how high do they hover, can they be targeted by the AI, and X, Y, and Z. So you can see here we have the scout drone just kind of going around. Now all this works in multiplayer as well. I'm just showing it on one screen just for the sake of time and convenience. So you figure like, if I go over here, press the land button, I can land. The reason why I can't land in that area is because it does not let you land where there is no navigation. So then that way you don't land your units in an area that's not accessible for units to walk in. And then basically it will be crazy. So you can see, let me delete you again, go away. And then you have the Chinook and the Black Hawk, which we've been basically just testing our different ways of having garrisoning. You can see that we still need to get the garrison component set up for the UI, so it shows how many people are in it, and then showing it here. But we've been working on like the virtualization for this because there's no actual interior to the Chinook. We basically just put everyone into a virtual space that we just kind of hide them per se. So basically, just we're working on that, making sure it all functions, getting everything set up, setting up the rappel for each variation of the helicopters. So that way, if I press Z, I can choose individual units with the revamped system. So then that way, like I can choose only drop the 2 engineers at this point, and then go to the next point and drop 1 engineer, and then go to the next point and drop like 3 assaults. So it gives you a lot of flexibility over the legacy systems in terms of basically how you choose to deploy your units. So in this case, I'm just going to do all of them. But ideally, there's still some micro adjustment that needs to happen to their AI. As you can see, there's a couple of instances where that was a little too slow. And it's working for the most part, but you figure we're just kind of hunting down small little issues and bugs here and there. Oh, I guess I landed on Chelsea. Wow. Okay. I guess I'll just let her get killed. Bye-bye. So you figure, and those are our test dummies because we've been testing the garrison shooting for the last couple of days because we've been getting a lot of reports of basically the garrisoning acting funny in terms of their reliability of being on Little Bird. This is another issue that we have to kind of resolve is that when helicopters take off, they put too much like emphasis on immediately moving in their direction. They need to always just go up to a safe cruising altitude and then move. Because then that makes instances like this where they just like bump into something and then they keep going. So that's something else that we gotta do like a little minor polish going into Monday. But if I put these guys on and then drive them over there and put these guys on hold fire, we've basically been working on these guys because we had a lot of issues of making sure that they were looking in the right direction. So they were choreographing what they were thinking, what they were shooting at, and making sure they were working. Because there were a lot of instances in our code where there were safeties on angle checks so you weren't hacking. That was a precursor to what we based the code off of the shooter demo in Unreal Engine. Is that every game basically, like, generally you start off with a shooter demo like Arc did, where the idea is that like you use it as the basis to start your code from. And there were some like view distance limits where you couldn't shoot someone beyond a certain distance. So we had to basically loosen up some of those checks and make sure they were able to actually like contort and shoot those locations. And then on top of that, there were some issues with the unit registry and ensuring that basically like they could see through their allies. Because there were a couple of instances that we ran into like towards the end of the week where we didn't even notice this until we were testing and playing in Pandemic over the course of the week, is that if you had 2 units in front of each other or 3 units, sometimes they would have they would have an issue with reliability of shooting through their targets. So that's something that we fix with the preview actors having collision. There was a recent regression with when we made a change for a spitter projectile to be able to shoot preview actors. It actually broke it so that when you were placing down a hologram, you couldn't shoot through it. So that was something else that we just kind of fixed this week. Now, one thing I do want to show is I will drop these guys off and demonstrate. Oh, actually, no, I don't want to do that yet. I want to do you, you, and you, and then drop those 3 off just to demonstrate the feature. And this is one of the things that we need to kind of like iron out, is that they just need to drop that a lot faster because that speed is just untenable. We can see in that instance, they only dropped the 3. They pull the ropes back up. And then that way, you can essentially just drop off units to different areas really quickly and efficiently. You can see that the Black Hawk is missing its doors. So that's something else that we're working on with the artists to basically get the animations all set up for that. And we're tweaking up and adjusting the rotor flex. There's a lot of subsystems that go into like these artifacts that you see when you turn off when you turn off the engine of the helicopters. So our visual artist, Dimitri, rather, is taking a couple of days just to make sure all the helicopters are set up properly on this SDK with the replication requirements and everything else that comes to fold. So he's just kind of taking a couple of days to not touch Alcatraz to basically help us make sure that all the actors are configured, set up correctly, and have the proper physics settings. So when they die, they do stuff like this, where like, if you kill the little bird and you press the delete key, it has more weight, as you can see. But when you kill, say, a scout drone, it just falls in place. So those are things that basically we're working with him to basically get configured and set up properly, so that when things die, they actually have some kind of weight. Like that one has weight. A little too much weight. It's like a slinky, but you figure those are the things where we have to change the physics body so that they have more weight associated with different parts. And then certain parts can break off, like the VTOL. So he's setting that up for us right now, setting up the weights and the weight distribution. So then that way, when a helicopter dies, they actually break apart, they run into things, and then that causes other parts to break off, like the rotors or whatever. Because we didn't want to go the route of pre-animated death animations, because then that could be clipping, you could get weird little oddities. So we just locally simulate that non-replicated. We send the same impulse, and then from there, clients are left up to their own discretion to basically determine, like, okay, what's going on in my local simulation of X, Y, and Z dying, crashing into a building, and then it's rotors and like other areas coming off and like an explosion going off. So those are systems from Legacy that we've ported over. And now we're configuring them and tweaking them within the confines of a new SDK. Now, the next thing we're going to show is relating to the operator. So let me just pull that up really super quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next aspect. So let me find him. So if I drop an operator into this map, is one of the extra items that like I've been getting a lot of. I'm going to delete you. Go away. He's trying to shoot our AI over here that are in God mode. They're basically they can't die, and we just drive around them like mannequins and just shoot at them all day just to make sure all the systems are functioning. But one of the big things that I kept getting requests on Discord, on Steam, is don't make me have to leave operator to basically be able to like engage with the game. Like if I have friends that just only play operator, I want to be able to like get on the skids or get on this and be able to like interact without like okay press B. Okay, now I have to click on him, and now I have to click on that, and I got quite a few requests on that on Discord and whatnot. So this is one of the smaller things that we're working on in the back to basically make it to where when you get on it, you can actually like we're working on the camera. Like it's been the garrisoning and the bugs of pandemic and the other things have kind of made it to where we did like a prototype of this, and then we had to immediately go back to bugs and other aspects of design. When we were in Wildlands or Breakpoint, when it comes to basically just how it works. But let me just show it. So if I go here and I do a split screen and I do a listen server, we wanted to make sure that your RTS friends weren't going to be like annoyed that you couldn't actually do anything on the skids. So I'm going to possess little Timmy here and just demonstrate it really quickly so we can move on to pandemic. And there's some issues that we're working out in terms of desync and animations. But then if I click on this and I tell him to move, then basically you're along for the ride and you can shoot and you can basically do your thing. Now we'll put it in there sometime next week to fix the camera to improve the aim node. So you're not, because you're moving in place, it's weird. So you see your legs are shifting there. Like if I zoom in on the second perspective, you'll see what I'm talking about. Oh, hold on. Where it's like it's doing like weird little stuff like that. So we kind of have to go through and just kind of iron him out and make sure he can function properly. So your friends that are playing an operator can do their thing and cover you and like play the game out in that way. You'll have the camera switching. We have to set that up. And then we have to just make sure he doesn't rotate in place like that. Fix his camera perspective, and then fix some last minute desyncs that occur when you get off. Like if I land the helicopter, and then I press E, he does this weird like shuffle when he gets off. It's like really weird. But those are the things we're working on, at least to just kind of get the operator integrated in with these systems and assure that like you figure like your friends can at least spare you. So like if I go over here and I get out, so I'm gonna get out right here. Go over here, press E. You know, you can get into the Black Hawk. What the hell? Oh, hi Chelsea. So you can get into the Black Hawk and it does that. And you figure one of the things that we have to do is make it to where it goes to like we're not gonna show the because some interiors don't have interiors, like the Chinook for example, and the Merlin. Merlin is yeah. So you figure that's something that we're gonna have to tweak going into where it's like it's more of like a third person camera perspective, like in GTA. So then that way when there's no interior to the vehicle, like the Bradley, like the Abrams or whatever, you just see it from outside the vehicle and then you can look around. So from your friend's perspective, you can at least see like, oh, we're gonna die. Get out of the vehicle and run away. You know, so like if I show you an example, if I go to the Chinook, which should work, you know, like the camera is in setup. So like I can go over here and tell it to move. I'm in it technically, but like the camera isn't set up for it and everything else. So those are small little things that we're working on going into next week just to kind of iron out the kinks and get it to the point where this is going to be the basis of everything going forward when it comes to vehicles on the ground and vehicles in the air. Now, long term, we'll push in the system so the operator can control said vehicles or control turrets and be able to switch slots. Right now, from when I've talked to the programmers and talking to the other cats, our utmost priority is focusing on RTS always. So we want to get the base systems in there and then build on them to be able to control the helicopters and the ground vehicles and the turrets long term. But for right now, we'll get the basis in of being able to like get into the vehicles, move, look around, maybe change some slots here and there if you want to like swap out with another AI to go to like the left skid to the right skid, and then that's it. and then we'll come back to actually adding more nuance and more layers of being able to control the vehicles later on. Um, so that pretty much sums up the aspect of what we've been doing for the garrison, the helicopters, the shooting, getting all of them set up. Now, right now, technically, there's another helicopter that's being set up, which is the VTOL Osprey, but it is not set up right now. It's built via nanite, and it's built in a bunch of parts. So you figure my technical artist going into Sunday has to rehook up all of this stuff, and then get the VTOL set up, get all the components set up, and basically just get all of the fun like exhaust stuff set up, and then we got to put the jet mode in. So as it stands right now, we're hoping from the playtest that we've had going into Friday, Saturday, there's no other major issues with the garrisoning and the shooting reliability while garrisoned. And we can focus on the last issues that I showed you, which was like the weird placement of like where units go in the Chinook, making sure all of their weapons hide and all the other characters hide. And then from there, we'll go into the weapons for the helicopters. Because from all the bugs and all the issues that we ran into over the course of the week, it made no sense to move on to the weapons for like the Little Bird miniguns and the Little Bird machine gun rockets and the Black Hawk rockets and all that until that all of the other stuff that we'd put in was solidified. So we're giving it a quick 24 hours or so to see if there's anything else anyone reports in relation to it from the playtesters that we have on Discord. I'll be running a public playtest tonight, so I'll put a public branch up, and I asked if people play it after the Cirque HQ. Anyone can play it. I don't give a shit. So go in and play it. Play it with your friends. Play it with the people on Discord, and basically just leave your feedback, ideally on Discord. But I know some people hate Discord, so leave it on Steam. But make sure you use the proper titles so I can find it quickly of any issues or bugs that you run into. So we'll be letting anyone play Pandemic tonight. I will be letting anyone play the helicopter garrison system, try out the operators from what you just saw, and just, leave your opinion. And what I'm going to do now is, let me check my notes real fast. Let me check one quick thing, and then we're going to move in. Oh, right. Yeah, I can show that. Let me open up Open World Master and not save that map, because there will kill me. And then I'm going to load into the map. So what I will show is I'll show what's going on with the map. That's going to be the main course that Efren's been working on. He's been kind of like fleshing out and blocking out and putting a lot of his time into the Oakland Bay Bridge and kind of getting the studs and trying to figure out the verticality of what sounds good, what feels good, what looks good, based off of how high we're going to put that bridge and the changes that are going to occur to southern to southern Yuba Island or Treasure Island. So then that way we can make sure that the bridges aren't too high, they're not too low, they don't block your camera too badly. So ideally going into next Saturday, he'll get it to a point of like near completion, because right now he has like a soft deadline of getting it done by the autumn sale for Steam. So we're trying to get it to the point where you can at least play on Angel and Treasure Island sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we just cordon off or close off San Francisco North, because it's not ready for gameplay, but you'll see it in the foreground untextured. And then in about a couple weeks after that, going into the Halloween sale, we'll aim to get some kind of initial version you can play of the bigger map. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be kind of like Subnautica and the early versions of Early Access. So the further you went from 000, the origin point, it'd be a little bit untextured. There'd be a little bit of like block out assets, and then you would see those assets come to fruition over subsequent weeks, or it'd be like a week or two. Every week you'd see like more assets, more buildings get replaced, kind of like what you saw for HNB, where essentially you saw like other areas getting filled in and detailed over the course of like the weeks of we were developing it with the community, gauging feedback, putting the landscapables in, and all the other fun stuff. Now, I will say, based off of the testing of this week, there were a lot of bugs that were brought to our attention in terms of level design assets that were legacy issues. That we hunted down and fixed those in terms of fences, in terms of cars, in terms of other things that were brought to our attention. Because a lot of the assets across the level are shared across all the maps. So fixing it in one fixes it in all of them. So this is one of the things that Efren's been kind of like trying to work with me to basically figure out the verticality, figuring out the bridges, and this is blocking. Keep in mind, like, the idea is it's like a quick, dirty sketch you do on like to kind of get the idea where the eyes are going to be, the face are going to be, and then from there, after you get approval, then you go in and you make it look pretty and you do it in detail passes. So right now, this is what we're kind of thinking, or rather what he's kind of thinking for the blocking to essentially establish the Oakland Bay Bridge that goes through here, merges into that double decker, cuts into the mountain, comes out the other side. You have your freeway on ramp blockouts roughly here that go here and go here. And the idea is that you jump on that bridge, and that's how you get to San Francisco. Because this is supposed to be the main course. It was always supposed to be the main course. But like I mentioned previously, we have 2 level designers, 2 modelers. They do everything, texture artists. So we had to take them off of San Francisco for foreseeably a year or two just to get the vehicles done. So now that the vehicles are done, there's only minor touch-up work as we're porting them over into the rebuild. Then he can kind of finally go back and work on these areas. And this has to be moved over. And the idea is that this is going to have like the high income housing trickling up to here, leading up to Chelsea's villa, which will overlook San Francisco that way. So you can figure like next Saturday, we'll have a lot more to show in terms of like having it more, I guess you could say, finalized in terms of Niners rough. But you can get the general idea of what we're going in because you figure this is the baby island. That's the main course. Where like this is 4 times the size of that island, 5 times the size of that island. So you figure this is supposed to be like, it was always supposed to be like the main area that you're going to play in. And then, like I mentioned previously, Alcatraz is going to be somewhere over here in an RTS version. So we're going to take the map that Dimitri's been building and put it right here and have it to where essentially that's like your area that you go to if you really want a turtle. There's no income there. There's no resource. There's no stock there. But it's like you can basically park your aircraft carrier here at that dock, at those 2 docks, or at the main island, like where we're gonna put docks like right there. Some of these, and then some of those. So the idea is like this is gonna be the main course that we're building towards. Um, and really briefly, I'm going to play in the map, and then we're going to get on to the pandemic gameplay. Let me just play an editor. Those are some migrated assets that have been fully ported over and vetted from a programmer standpoint. It's pretty much just been a level designer kind of going in and focusing on the broad strokes, and then a gameplay designer, myself or Derek, has to come in and basically just get it ready for gameplay. Where we just kind of go through blueprint compile errors that might have occurred from migrating over the assets, or that there are things that are named differently between both projects because we learned a lot of things over time. Oh shit. I shouldn't have done it in split screen. I'm gonna have to escape out of that because you figure this map has not been vetted, so that's gonna probably put too much of a strain on my computer. Yeah, I figured so. Let me turn off the multiplayer because that's not a good idea on this map because there's no HLODs and there's no crazy optimization like we put in HMB in the last week or so. So let's just speed this up a little bit because you figure that's going to lower my frame rate because you're rendering 2 versions of the game concurrently. And it's not even that, it's also the gameplay logic. So give that a second to load. I'll jump in and show you guys just generally how it's going to look in terms of the framing, the verticality, and X, Y, and Z, and then we're going to jump into the pandemic playtest. So let me zoom out. Here's the island you guys have all come to know and love. And then here's generally the framing that we're going to have in terms of the verticality of how tall these are going to be and how it's all going to connect. And here's the military base that we have situated here. Now, we're going to try and keep the military base and not shrink it to the real world side, where this is like a quarter. Like, realistically, in real life, it's probably like as big as like right here. We were thinking about moving this airfield to San Francisco North. Well, we might leave it for the time being. If we can't make it work and it just looks weird having airplanes landing next to an airport like that, we might end up slicing this and reusing those assets for a dock near the water purification plants that are over here, and making it to where there's a large military airfield in the southern area. Because technically, what we're planning, essentially, there needs to be roughly an airfield or like even a miniature one from all 3, because we wanted to have it to where the C5 is what brings in the Abrams, the Apache, the MRS. So you have to hold a strategic location to be able to bring in super units. And that way, Chelsea would know to prioritize those locations to deny you those weapons. Um, but here, let me just kind of pop back over so I can show you guys the scale, because I know there are some people that are new that have never seen any of this before. There's the museum. That's where the Golden Gate and the fort is. This is the main park with the De Young Art Museum. Then you have the hill that overlooks San Francisco. And then the other adjacent regions in terms of basically like the other blockouts we've done. And then we have a freeway. This is going to be really interesting for when we get our artists back on this because it's going to be the first freeway we've had in the game. You can see that he's been integrating it and setting it all up so everything connects. So it's going to be really interesting in terms of how all this comes together. I know there's a random crash in this map. Yeah, I'm probably going to get it. There's a streaming asset that's like probably corrupted that we need to hunt down and fix when it was migrated over. So when I go that way, it'll probably crash when I get close to the angel. I got it a couple days ago for effort left. So you figure I won't go that way. But you figure this is generally what he's working on is getting this area facilitated, getting the rough draft of the bridges blocked out. And then now he's to a point where he's going to focus all of his efforts here so we can get something playable to you guys in the foreseeable future. So now we're going to move into, close that. We're going to move into showing the current state of pandemic. So what I'm going to do is load into it. It's loading up. All right. So one of the things that you'll notice is that a couple days ago, we had it to where you had to go to Horde, and then you had to click here to do it because it was just kind of a quick last minute test just so we could quickly figure out like, okay, just go and play it. We're not even going to have you guys wait for us to get the pandemic menu up. Now, keep in mind that there's no custom game options yet because they're the helicopters still. So I've been working 99.9% on pandemic and getting it functional solely. The idea is that once he finishes the helicopters and gets the weapons and the shooting and the last things that are missing from the helicopter situations with some minor bug fixes here and there, then he'll join me on pandemic and take over during the custom game options. And then once that's done, you can see right here actually, it's a little bit white, but it says pandemic custom game settings coming soon. And the idea is that you'll be able to go in from that base setting and you'll be able to change everything. You want to change what time spitters come up, what enemies are allowed to spawn, what health do they have, how much damage do they do, how fast are they. So if you want to make it like Dawn of the Dead, you can. You want to make it more like 28 weeks later, you can. So the idea is that we want to give it to where it's mini modding or sandbox. So the idea would be is that weapons for helicopters will probably take him 1 to 2 days, maybe 3 days at most. And then there are a couple of days to bug test. So the idea is sometime around next week, he'll get to that. And we'll ideally be able to show it next Saturday for being able to go in, a host can change the settings, and then their friends join their session, and then you're able to play. So what I'm going to do is let me just load right in. I don't know if anyone wants to play co-op, so I see Derek in the room. I guess I'll just invite him to speak if he does want to talk. Hello. Anything you want to add? I don't know if I saw you pop in.
You pretty much covered it. Also planning on sneaking in a little bit of more bug fixes over the weekend, so keep those bug reports rolling in.
Did you see the spitter one?
But
yeah, there was the one that was in that I think Hawkins or someone else posted in the Discord forums, where there's like a spam message where it's like, this unit is being deleted in a way that could cause a fatal war crash.
Yes, I see. Yes, I see that one. That's for level transition. That's related to the level transitioning and the safety that we added for seamless travel. I checked that as I was coming in, or as I was checking in. And the issue is primarily that when we do the seamless travel, we do a component cleanup, which also involves the deletion of the unit component. And since that's still the deletion of the component before it's broadcasted to the death delegate, and you can see it's popping up right there, that's what's causing that is the pre-seamless travel client travel call. It clears off the unit component without calling the death code, and therefore it's freaking out thinking that it has been deleted without
and it causes
having enough time
a race condition or some kind of access violation.
Pretty much, yes. And when traveling from the main menu over to a map, it's not going to be that dangerous. But when we're
It
traveling
leaves
back,
lingering
we probably need to add
references.
some.
Yeah, I see it right now. You see that?
Correct. So when we're traveling, yes. So I think one way to potentially suppress that message is to when it's because I went a little bit ham with the debug message there in order to make sure that it was visible when traveling between levels. Because if you do receive that message outside of a level transition, I need to know about it as soon as possible so that I can put that vision grid crash away. Because internally that debug log was occurring anyway, but it wasn't being printed onto the screen. I added it to the screen so that more people can see when it occurs, so that when someone is getting a unit that is in a situation that can cause a vision grid crash, I can know about it as soon as possible. Because I'm tired of the vision grid crash popping up from situations where something is not clearing itself correctly during game.
Okay, now that makes sense. We want to eradicate that crash because crashes are bad. So that's kind of what we've been doing. Is been working with the community on Discord and on whoever joins with the playtester role. Is that helicopter going to go under the water?
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, I told it to do a rappel, and it did a bug where it. Yeah.
Oh. No, it's not. I don't think that's a bug so much as he was trying to go a little bit low in order to get
It's
there.
way far. That's an issue with. I told him to rappel from like really far away. Oh fuck! Chelsea went where I was going. Yeah. Okay, never mind. Turn around. We're going to. There's a debugging. So, in the early debug test that we allow people, we put a lot of like debugging so people could see like what she's thinking and what she's doing, so they could give us information of like, I don't think that's fair. I don't like that. I like that. So then that way we can hear what everyone's saying. So whenever she's building, whenever she's expanding, whenever she's doing anything, you know. So then that way you can tell us, I don't like how fast that spread is. So that way we can try and find the right speed for everything, whether it's inner zone expansion, outer zone expansion, investigations, attacks, you know. So we're going to get into that of some of the shortfalls of the system. Anyway, what were you saying, Derek? I interrupted you. I just wanted to address that. We'll go here.
Oh no, I quickly added that issue of the really long distance fast stroke.
We'll import afterwards.
Trello, so I was just noting things down. And I'm right now I'm adding some logic to suppress that error log when you're traveling from the menu level.
So we're gonna redirect to a different area because she took that area. She's building up her base right now, and she's expoing. And you can see right now she's sending out infected to basically spread the contagion. So we're going to have to redirect here. We're going to drop a team off there. We're going to drop a team off there and basically secure the perimeter. See, that's the issue right there, Dick. See that micro adjustment? That was what you were telling me about, where sometimes it will like go super duper slow. Yeah, because they don't understand to keep going and break a little bit more.
Yeah, I need to. It's wrangling a little bit of the internal Unreal Engine logic and balancing it with AI, with the custom helicopter AI logic to make it realize, no, you can keep on the throttle a little bit longer. Your brakes can handle it.
It's basically teaching them how to drive.
It works in the majority. Yeah, it works in the majority of situations, but for those micro adjustments, they tend far too much to favor just going extremely slowly so they don't have to brake versus using their dang brakes.
Absolutely.
So to speak.
Okay, we also increased the power of the small generator. Again, like some of the horde stuff was just meant early incubator stuff that we were just kind of getting a feel for the gameplay. The balance wasn't final. And it was one of those things where like it was just an early draft version. So you'll notice a lot of the pricing, a lot of the build times, a lot of like the ins and outs of how things have worked have been completely rebalanced, readjusted based off of Michael. He just goes on Discord and watches people play all day. And then he'll just talk to them. They'll make Discord threads and they'll be like, I don't like this, I like that. And then again, at the end of the day, he'll see what everyone's saying and then and then kind of adjust based off of like how do things feel off of the general consensus. So he's gathering data right now and seeing like, let me get someone over there to help that. And basically just figuring out like how do these numbers feel, what needs to be adjusted more, and X, Y, and Z. Now, one of the other things that I'm not really happy with the current state of the game in terms of pandemic is that the gas towers aren't in. See right there, you can see they're building and they're expoing down here. The gas towers aren't in. That's something I'm working on going into Monday. The lieutenants aren't in yet. The Juggernaut is not in. Those are the only things that are missing right now as it stands. So those are the rest of the goals that I have, and then Derek will join me ideally next week or the following week to try and get the basis of Pandemic in, so you guys can play it in co-op full. As it stands right now, there's no real infection damage because there's no, there's no one trying to basically kill me like that. And then you figure I'll definitely have to lower the amount of starting troops or figure out some kind of way of giving the LHA 6 to basically give you some starting pop. Because you can see you start with 13 or 12, so you have to build a garrison tent before you can build a unit. Because we gave people so many units from the onset and the early playtests. And the one thing that we're looking at is having it to where the more players that join in the beginning, maybe dynamically spawning a little bird and a couple of engineers, and maybe even just their one custom operator, to basically give them like a free quick start kit. So then that way everyone doesn't have to fight over the little bird. Because we've been getting that quite a bit. We had a play test, I think 2 days ago. We had 10 people on the session, and it was fucking chaos. It was amazingly fun. Like you figure, the first time we built, which is why I went here, we took this compound, and we had like 3 people here. And then other people joined over the course and later on the public playtest. But we got rolled because you figure we couldn't get enough money. We got like an inner cordon of like a wall here, and then an outer square compound here. And then I think Dark Silver was in charge of defending the entrance here. And then they just kept throwing bodies and bodies and bodies against this corner until it broke. Everyone died. We had to have little birds parked in the background. Everyone ran to the little birds, and then we had to basically figure out where are we going next. Because you figure, like, they had overran our cordon, killed practically everyone, and we barely got out some engineers and some assaults. So then this base folded, and then we retreated over here to lick our wounds, killed the pods that they had here originally, set up a wall here, set up a wall here, and just basically just turtled. And then we held there for the most part, and then we ended up expoing down here because we lost this base. So they started setting in blowers and spitters to basically nail our line here. And then from there, one person was in charge of guarding this area. And then a couple people were up here guarding and doing their own thing. And then we sent one guy over here to try and establish a sock to try and get us money, while everybody else is trying to guard the back, the base in the back. So then that way we could have like a fallback point, and then someone was out there trying to scout out, okay, let's build a sock here. Maybe they won't notice me. Surprise, surprise, they noticed him within 5 minutes and killed him. So then at that point, in the game, the only problem we ran into was that this is one of the issues that I have to fix going into Monday, Tuesday, is that sometimes when you build guard towers and units on elevated positions, and then you close off with a wall, their pathfinding and their AI freaks out, and they don't understand that they need to move to the wall or move towards the wall, and then their combat logic will take over, and they'll be like, I gotta destroy that wall, then worry about something else. No, instead of that, every time they'd get hit, they'd run back and forth between here and here. And then every once in a while, someone would peek the beehive, and then you get like 100, 200 infected just storming up here. Eventually we died because the defense back here folded because they started backdooring us from pods that were over here. Dark Silver was more focused over here, trying to help out the socks and trying to reestablish our base here because they had pushed all of their resources to that zone. We were trying to backdoor them while they were trying to backdoor us. We lost this cordon. They ran through here and then killed everyone. And then at that point, we were like, this is a soft loss. Let's just start over. So then at that point, we started over with the whole team. So it's one of those things where you figure like when it works, it works. But there are still some kind of situations here and there where I need to kind of iron out some of the like moments where it kind of breaks down and deteriorates. So then that way we can kind of make sure that it's like it's a consistent experience all the way through. Because as you can see right now, she's doing her thing. She's infected Civic Center to 4%. She's primarily focusing on Bayfront. That's at 16%. And then you figure she hasn't sent out an attack wave yet because she's still scanning. She's trying to figure out where I am. So eventually she'll figure out where I am. And then she'll send out an attack wave, a very large attack wave, that will try and basically be a 1-2 punch like a Zergling rush. If you survive that wave, then she'll keep prodding you until either you push her back or she pushes you into the ocean. So the idea is that that's an idea that we're kind of balancing. And with this version of the game, there is a lot more emphasis put on build orders for her because she is unforgiving when it comes to like if you there she is. She is absolutely unforgiving in terms of basically like her balance and how she's adjusted right now or as it stands. So like you figure, and this is the bug that we have to we already fixed that bug is that right now sometimes they do the stopping. It was an AI regression that came in from the other stuff, so like it kind of gets your units killed, which is going to be unfortunate. I might have to put these units in God mode because again, we just put them in God mode for right now, so I can at least be able to demonstrate her horde AI. And then this is already fixed. I have to just release a patch. This is not going to be in the version that you guys are going to be playing. This was fixed last night at midnight, but I haven't put the patch out yet and cooked it. It was actually cooking right now, ironically. But the idea would be is had I not, I mean, you figure I had God mode on, so you figure it's one of those things where like I would die there. I would have been dead probably in that attack because I needed to have gotten walls up. I needed to have more units up early. So now she knows where I am. So the idea is going to be, let me turn off the God mode. You guys can't do that because it's locked to devs. But the idea is that like now she knows where I am. She's going to basically eventually encircle me. She'll go left. She'll go right. And there she goes right now. So she's launching an investigation to figure out like where am I, and essentially what am I doing. So that investigation, I'll bring up the debugging. Let's see if it's gonna let me. Yeah, you can see they're pathfinding along this green seam. And here they come. And then the idea is that they're analyzing what I have, and then they're analyzing the best way to counter it. So if you build a lot of snipers, then they'll build spitters. You build a lot of little birds, well, they'll build spitters. You spam out heavies and like assaults, they'll build brutes, standard and infected, and some blow up guys. And the idea is that the standard infected are meant to kind of soak up the hits, while the blow up guys and the brutes are there to kind of sneak in and be able to inflict the maximum amount of damage. So I'm going to throw a flashbang. That was a weird bug. And they're dead. Yeah, they're just dead. So you figure, let's just move those guys over here. You can see they launched an investigation here. That move order failed. So again, those were like little things that we're kind of tracking down and fixing is why did that move order fail? But they're kind of like marking locations. Like, see what I mean? I immediately just kind of moved away because they're trying to check out why that last attack wave didn't check in. Oh, shit. So this will be released in about 20 to 30 minutes after the thing, so I can just test a couple of things. But yeah, I'm wrecked. And you guys will have to let me know if it's too hard. I think that one thing we might have to do, and I was talking to Hawkins and a couple other people about it, is that we're potentially going to have to add like a mutilator where you can set how hard they are in terms of like their densities of attacks. Because you figure I probably made it a little too unforgiving in the early parts of the game. I'm more focused on talking than I am actually playing, ironically, because if I was playing, I'd be not talking right now. I get too focused. But you can see right now, they're coming for the kill. So the system has identified you're hunkered down here. And this is a classic example of basically I need to pull my losses. So I would load up these little birds, move them to the street over, run my units out of here, put them on hold fire, so I don't get that weird bug that's already fixed. Let them have the base. And what'll be interesting is when we get the weapons in going into next week, so then that way you can actually do strafing runs with the little birds and be able to, inflict a lot more damage. Because then we'd have people that literally, like Ford, for example, he was just doing helicopters. So he would do transportation, and that was his one job. So, like, if you had a team that was going to die, you'd basically tell him on Discord, and then he'd come over with a Black Hawk or a Little Bird, scoop you up. And then basically from there, you would retreat or whatever, or wherever you were going. So in this example, we can retreat over here. The one thing I would say is that, like, without looking at the vehicle, you can't really tell who's in it. So that's one of the things that we're gonna have to do going into next week is expand it a little bit more than what we had in Legacy, where you can click on the actual helicopter and see in the details panel a quick thing of like who's in there. We'll probably have to do something along those lines as a small little quality of life change, just to make it a little bit easier to understand like what is going on and who is in what. Without you having to sit here and do this, and then you have to press Z and be like, oh, that's who's in it. Because that dynamically scales based off of the amount of people in it. I'm gonna give myself some money just for the sake of a demonstration's sake. Actually, hold on. Can I release the other build as it stands right now and just get the update? Because I did cook a build in the beginning of it, so that way we can play. I can just patch real fast and show you it's working, and show you the actual version you're gonna be playing. Let me see. Oh yeah, that cooked. So we'll put that out on that branch. Mark it live. We'll shut down the game, and I'll really quickly update so I can show you guys about that weird oddity. One thing that I will say is there's no save system as it stands right now. The save system will be coming either next week or towards the end of the month. Just keep in mind that in its early version, like it's just you play it through and then you figure you just kind of end the game. And the save system is going to be coming. It's just we're waiting until we get the basis of pandemic in for like the Juggernaut and the lieutenants, and then at that point, it's just a little bit of icing on the cake, some finessing, some polish here and there, and then we'll be able to get to the point of putting in the save system by the end of the month, and then it'll be all steam ahead, full steam ahead kind of deal. So let me load that in, and then let me go ahead. I don't think anyone's around to play, so I'm not even gonna bother hosting a multiplayer game. I'm gonna load in again. Give it a quick little second to load. Okay, I do see those warnings, so that looks. Oh yeah, but that's not the one that he was talking about. So we're gonna show a little bit more of pandemic, and then at that point, we'll switch over to a Q&A. So just bear with me. I'm gonna give myself some cheap money so I can really quickly just show some of the newer units. I'm pretty sure people don't want to watch me play a full session. They can play that at their own leisure after the broadcast. So I'm gonna try and go for my favorite spot. We'll see how well it works out. I'm gonna just kind of bum rush to that location and hope that she doesn't pick that either. And then you'll also notice that we added more socks or the amount that were in Legacy for like not much as Legacy, but earlier playtests that you saw on YouTube that we had done on Discord only had like 3 socks. We doubled the amount of socks based off of talking to people in the community. There's a good example of their pathfinding live right there, actually. And we essentially lowered the kill income for infected, so you can't just camp a location and make all the money in the world. That was a precursor of just doing horde first. Is a lot of the initial balance was done around horde, and it was one of those things where like, okay, well, we need to kind of make some changes here. So we made it to where like there were different loot tables, I guess you could say, between the 2 different respective modes. So we're gonna put the sock down. We're gonna park the little birds over here. There's only 2 entrances here. There's this one and that one. I'm gonna get that sock right up. And then we're gonna send these 2 units the guard there. Then we're gonna send 2 units the guard here. And then we will just kind of issue you right there to protect the back of the engineers. Because losing engineers in the early game is absolutely fatal. So we will land those, shut off the engine, so we can save the gas. All right, we got our sock. We're gonna upgrade it. I give myself some cheap money, and then we're gonna build out some of the new units. So we're gonna get you. We're gonna build you. Can I fit a helipad in this area? Barely. Let's get you to help. Let's send you out there. I know she's gonna hit. She always hits this front entrance the hardest. That's one of the other things that I want to do, is add more nuance to how she plans out her attacks and her investigations, because she can be a little too on the nose and not enough strategy put into like grouping up her units and flanking intentionally, or being able to understand a little bit more of a defender's base and making better decisions in terms of unit preservation, so she can hit spots that are weaker. But you'll see that. So we have the Sky Crane dropping in the one. And we have the helipad here. So we're going to call in a Sharon. Oh, I need pop. So let's go ahead and just build some tents in the back of the home. There, 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 and there. And then let's get a scout drone up once we have that. To the engine. Oh, I didn't hit the button. Oops. Keep in mind, I know I've heard people say this, but you don't have to play with people. Like, I'm playing by myself right now, so you don't have to play online. We're gonna get a scout drone up for scouting. And then no, the current unit pop is 80 as it stands. For the person that asked on YouTube. Later on, when we get to the bigger map, we'll look at increasing it to 120, like it was in Legacy. And then the custom game options will allow you to go to 200, only if you're willing to basically have the best internet and the best CPU known to man. Because you figure it's just one of those things where, like, literally that amount of units is just really expensive to run. You have to have a good computer to some degree, which is why, like, we floodgated it behind the custom game option with a disclaimer. So that will come as we phase onto the larger map as it stands. Let's see. Let's get a Sharon for larger transport. There's my scout. We're definitely going to have to increase its range a little bit, but I'm just going to kind of put it out here for a feeler so I can see if anyone's coming. We'll kind of put that entrance, and then we're going to have to put another scout drone and put that maybe right over here. And then we need to flood the base with some units, and we need to get some walls set up. We'll focus on the walls. There we go. Get those walls set up. And then you stop moving. Just do it. And then we're going to need to get some heavies. Won't focus so much on that. Let's get some of them. Let's get some snipers. Flood them in there. We're going to park the... Keep in mind that this doesn't support landing yet. That's one of the things that Derek needs to work on going into next week, is that if you try and land on top of it, it won't work like it did in Legacy. That's something that we're working on. So for right now, you'll have to just land your...
For helicopters, ideally, we not only fix it so that you can actually land on the helipad, but also get in that shortcut that was in Legacy, where if you right-click with a helicopter onto a helipad, the helicopter will automatically say, "Hey, I want to land there."
That's interesting. I guess I can't land on this roof. I'll have to look into that, take a picture of that. There we go. That's weird. That one might not be big enough.
So, yeah, that roof may have a weird nav blocker or something, or some other thing caused it to break the navigation on top of it. Because as you can see, you can land over on that side.
I'll have to look into that. I'm taking a screenshot for logging that for later. Let's get a gate up. Let's get everyone back into the compound. Oh, yep.
I'll leave you to it.
Let's get everyone back into the compound.
Take care, y'all.
Let's put an assault there. Put a guard tower up here. Let's move these guys back in. Put that there. You can help. You can help. You guys are there just in case it goes to shit. So we'll keep you there. It's in case I need to flood you in. I gotta lock the gate because I don't want someone sneaking in. And then let's actually, do I have any extra engineers I can send? No, I don't. But I'm gonna grab you. And regardless, you're gonna come over here and fill in that defense. Now, technically, I shouldn't be turtling right now. Um, but I'm just gonna not gonna play a full session, just for the sake of time. You guys can go out there and play Call of Duty, and have your operator buddies running around and rush the infected and do all that stuff. But I'm just really quickly trying to show how the attacking and investigations work, and then you guys are welcome to play it at your own, however you guys deem to play it tonight when I release it. Um, if it seems good enough, I'll release it publicly. I just need to see like how people like it, what kind of issues they run into. I don't want to just release it and then it it breaks something in the horde mode, and then no one can play it. So and then we have to like rush over the weekend to basically fix a bunch of stuff. Is this? That's odd. I don't know why that's not opening. Oh wait, I'm in a power deficiency, aren't I? Yes. Yes, I am. Gates don't open when you don't have power. So let's build a medium generator here. Let's put some LMGs on the walls. And then when they finish that gate, I'll be able to go in. All right, let's get you over there to help him. Let's speed this up. Do I have anyone else that could help? No, I'm going to build some extra engineers. Can't because I'm out of power. So I can't call for help. Okay, so now we're going to get some NGs. And let's give them the rocket launcher as a backup. Let's give them the shotgun because that's nasty in this close CQB. We'll flood them over to the left lane. Gates open. So now we're going to go in, shut it down. We're going to put a guard tower there, and we're going to put a guard tower here. And then let's clean up the line of sight because the problem is that with the AI, with these trees, that is going to muddy up their target acquisition because they have to go between shooting at someone that keeps dodging around a tree, and it'll make it harder for them to make the shot in some cases. So we're going to clean up our perimeter so it's easier for them to maintain a line of sight, and there's less obstacles for them to basically like screw them over. Especially in the case of if I put sniper guard towers here and sniper guard towers here to trickle down the special infected. So let's see what the infection are doing. Where are they? I wonder. Let me bring up my debugger. I wonder if she bugged out. And that hasn't happened before. So I'm going to warp her to my mouse. And then, yeah, there she is. Where is she trying to move to? Okay, that's a new bug. Let me just teleport her there. Yeah. Where is she going? Again, we're kind of, yeah, okay, that was weird. For some reason, she didn't build her initial pod and she got bugged out in a weird location. I'm going to have to investigate why that happened. But there she goes. She built her defense pods. She's sending out a builder unit. Let me see if I can bring up the... Oh, that's right. I'm not in multiplayer, so I can't show that debug. Shit. So there she goes building there. So then I'm going to just take advantage of that. And move these down and go attack her. Actually, you know what? Perfect excuse. Let's load up the Black Hawk and use that on her. And then you can see there's an issue there. Is that it's not playing its engine warm-up. like it does in Legacy. So it's something that basically I got to get Derek to implement going into next week, is make sure that the engine warm up is working. So we're going to take a Black Hawk, and we're going to take these units and go and attack her. We'll leave these units here stationed. That one's full. Build the next one. Hotkey them. So she's spreading here. We'll land in this compound and then see if we can. Did I bring any engineers? Because actually what I should do is I should bring some engineers with those shotguns. We'll load you up in those because like she's not going to be here for a while. So we're going to take you guys and just see if we can build a forward base. So we're going to go to, what's a good staging area? Pause the game so I can think. She's here. She's spread that far. We want to try and contain her into a cordon. Because how the new system works is that she sends out individual infected. And then if you kill those individual infected that are trying to build, she'll send out counter waves to get you to retreat. I guess we're going to land here, attack this initial pod, and then see if we can set up a cordon here and around her and see how well that works out. And with the little bird garrisoning and the shooting, it should be fine to basically just kind of get some cover while my Black Hawk repels. Oh, what are you? What the fuck? Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm not landing there now. That's a lot of infected. Redirect. Go back to the base. They're headed to my base. Never mind. We're going to catch them off at this intersection. Actually, technically, let me get a little... Where's my scout drone? Let's figure out what road they're taking, and I'll set up an ambush there. Where are they? There they are. So they're going to come up on this intersection here. So let's grab my little helicopters. Yeah, they're going to the airfield. Soccer stadium. So we'll set up a kill zone here. So let's get those helicopters over there. Land there. Land there. Land there. Hurry up. Pause. Slow. X. Grenade. Grenade. Snipers move back while shooting. Assaults move up. Assaults move up. Okay. Switch to your rocket launcher. Switch to your rocket launcher. Switch to your rocket launcher. Let's move you back a little bit. Let's move you guys back a little bit. Winters, use your flashbang. Oh, she's dead. Could have went better, but it wasn't horrible. That's a lot of blood splatter. Okay, so let's move. Let's load them back up. Let's send a scout drone ahead to see what they're doing. They're sending a builder out. That's fine. Okay, those spine turrets haven't noticed me. So we'll do this attack, and then we're going to move on to the Q&A. Like, I could play this all day. Oh, they're sending out a counter wave. Let's hurry up and get in there before they flood me with units. Oh, shit. Not good. Not good. No, little bird. You're too young. Okay, you go home. Oh, you just not gonna. Oh, wait. There we go. Go home. Flood in before they overrun us. Oh, shit. Those are investigation waves. Okay. Attack failed. Let's see if we can't land that. Oh, fuck. They're dead. They couldn't land because of the goddamn street sign. Okay, retreat. You're full, but you're not. Can you land at your current location? No, you can't. That's one of the things that we need to do, is that we definitely need to make it to where your units, you tell them where to land instead of sitting here and trying to find a spot to land. Because it's annoying. So that's one of the other things that we definitely need to tweak going into next week. Because I'm sitting here struggling, trying to get them to land. Like right there. Like now I found a spot that was perfect. That's not very good. That got me killed. That got me killed in 2 instances, from a little bird to the Black Hawk. So keep in mind, we do know that's an issue. That is something that we're going to be fixing going into next week. I already have it on the task sheet, is having it to where the landing operates the same way that the rappel does. So you just choose a location, it goes to that location, it lands, and then your units will automatically know to get inside of it. Excuse me. Just keep that in mind for the version that you do play tonight. It's going to be kind of weird when it comes to like some of their positioning of like, if it's not perfectly like amazing, they might like do something weird like that. So we are aware that's a problem, and we are working on that to get it situated before we work on to the weapons for the Black Hawk and the Little Bird and all the other fun stuff. Because then in this case, I could just press the land button, and then I would get an icon that represents the shape of the helicopter, and then it would go green or red based off of can it accommodate me landing in that location over this hodgepodge bullshit. So you figure like I would do this, and instead of it being a circle, it would be the outline of the helicopter's body, not the rotors to a certain degree, because we don't really count the rotors to it's the game. So we didn't want to go too realistic when it comes to that. But the idea is it'll at least outline the body and do the part that it needs to basically permit a free amount of space for units to get out and being able to land. So that's something that we'll work on going into next week, because as you can see, it is a problem when things are going horrible and those split decision moments. I'm going to end it there because, like I said, I can play this all day. You can see that in this case, I need to pull back these helicopters that I left there. So they're flooding the zone and trying to figure out where I went. They haven't built any spitters, so I got lucky in that instance. But you can see they are spreading. You guys will have to let me know if there's an issue with the spreading, and then I will address those. Oh yeah, you can see right here. Now they're prodding my base. So they went another way around, and now they're attacking it from a different direction. Based off of, yeah, that's great. I attacked them there. But now they're like, okay, let's find him. So they found him, me, while I was attacking them. And now they know where I am. They're going to start sending waves of infected to basically try and overrun my position and whatnot. One thing you'll also notice is the population meter is not in yet. That's something we're going to be working on going into next week as well. Is I'll be setting that up so you can see the general status of the world in terms of basically the percent and how many people are still alive. There's one other thing I want to hit upon is that for the operator, we did get a bug report earlier in the week, and I'll show you where is it? We know this can be overwhelming in terms of basically when you spawn in as the operator. We're going to have to brainstorm some other ways of showing the zones for the operator because it stands right now. It is just too much fucking information. But you figure it's one of those things where like we're heavily focused on pandemic and on the helicopters. So the moment I can see right there, that right there means they're coming. So they're checking this resource point because what does Cirque need? They need to have a resupply line. So they're basically coming to see, like, there they are. They're on their way over. So you figure when this thing pops in, I'll show you. We are aware of it. And when we get the time to basically address it, sometime in the next week or two, by the end of the month, we will. I gotta get with like Winter and our concept artists to see if they have any interesting ways of fixing this. Because like, look at this. Look at that. Look at that. That's ugly as fuck. So it's one of those things where like for right now, I might just hide them. And then you might have to just talk with your RTS players to figure out the status of a zone. One thing that I was thinking about is doing kind of what Ready or Not does, and a couple other games do, but you have like a tab or like some kind of button that shows like an information screen, like her data computer. That's something we might look into to basically make it to where you hold tab and you press tab. Because right now you press M and it brings up for a tactical map, and that's great. Maybe we can put it on here and draw the actual zone borders. So the idea is like the Division was a reference for like having like that little PDA that they have. So you can see right now they're assaulting the location. So if I run over here, they're gonna pick and prod until they find a weak point. And he's getting lit up by that spitter. And you can't even do your job because you can't even see what to do. Because so it's one of those things where like that's something we're gonna have to tweak. Because that's just unacceptable. Like they're on that corner, so thank God I can actually do something in this instance. He's screwed. If he was in my squad, I could issue him orders. So I just want to show this for the people that are going to be playing for the first time today. Is that if I put all of these guys into my squad, and then I basically go back to Sarah, I can hold Q, and they'll form up on me as a protective net. I can tap Q, and I can tell them to advance. Now, you can't tell doors to unlock yet. We'll figure that out. But for right now, you have to just talk to your RTS players. So, like, open Sesame, and then you go to the Active Operators button here. This is a hotkey, so you can see all the other players as operators. You can track them, and you can find them at any given time. So I can click on this and double-click it. It'll jump me to her, and then I can press Z. And then I can be like, you know what? I want you guys to go over there and secure that perimeter. So they'll move out. But you can also have helicopters with people inside of them. Like Garrus. Oh, I see. I grabbed him on accident. So if he had a gunner, he'd be laying down cover fire right now. Just going fucking full auto with rocket launchers and the chain gun that they get. But the idea would be is that like had I put units in these little birds, they'd be forming up in a protective bubble. So let's say, I'm just going to show this because this is sexy. So if I grab little Timmy here. Actually, are you out of gas? Son of a bitch. Do I have a single surviving little bird? No. So we're going to build one just so I can show this. And then we can actually say dunzos. So we'll build a little bird. Just so I can show this so people can try it out, experiment with it, and tell me what they think. And we're going to get on to the Q&A. I know I'm just kind of going off on a spiel right now, but I want to show off this really cool feature we were working on. You know what? Let's send you over there so I know it's coming. If you get shot down, you're cheap, so I don't care. So I'll probably get shot down by a spitter. So where is my little bird? Where is my super suit? Ah, there it is. It's coming from the carrier. So keep in mind, all your helicopters come from the carrier. And essentially, they just kind of show up, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we're here." And then you can see right now all the infections and all of the inner zone requests they're making. But these guys were like, we're getting your ass kicked. Can you rope in BP Pod C2? But it'd be nice if BP Pod D over here would also send some people. So then it would be like, haha, hit this corner, hit that corner until you died. Till you're dead, or you counterattack and get some pressure off of you. And I was still very much working on the whole pressure aspect. Because I feel like when they ramp up, they don't give a shit. They go all in, they go for the jugular, and they don't stop. So that's the only problem with the current system. It is very unforgiving. And you can see right now there's a bug going on with like their target acquisition. I bet these spitters, yep, they're fixating on the scout drone. So that's something else that we have to fix. But I'll just show this real fast before we wrap it up. So if I press Q, they're going to form into a protective buffer. So if that had weapons, which that already has a team in it, so they're shooting. And with the ugly text, oh my god, that is abysmal. You get the proof of concept of what we're building here. In terms of like, you got your friends on the ground that are commanding squads, you got your RTS friends that are doing the logistics, doing the management, doing the actual like major operations. That's weird. Let me just tell them to run and see if that fixes it. If you double tap Q, it'll tell them to run. If you single tap Q, it'll tell them to move. If you hold E, oh sorry, so it's E to basically move to a location. Actually, no, E is an attack move. I'm sorry. E is attack move, so they'll basically move and basically stop every time you shoot something. Q is to move. Holding Q tells them to follow you. Yes, it's in the keybinds. So, yeah, it's one of those things where like we need to probably put like a tutorial window up that can legacy. But you can see in this example, we're basically counter pushing them, and they're going to. That's weird. They're going to basically try and keep adjusting their advance as we move up. So you can see those circles are them being like, they're not at the base anymore. Let's kill them. So then they're going to basically do their inner and their outer zone requests via the faction manager and try and catch you out in the opening. So you're going to get so like right now, they know I have little birds, so they're going to try and spam some spitters because that's their only response to helicopters. There's definitely some issues that we need to iron out going into next week. I'm not going to say this build is perfect. There's a reason why it hasn't been released to the general public yet. Is because we are still processing through bugs, lack of features, and small little quality of life changes that need to happen over the course of the next couple of days. Because going into like Monday, Tuesday, I would like to release this. But you can see like there's oddities with like the Blackhawks and the Little Birds, and if people don't care that much, I'll release it right now. If people are just like, you know what, we'll just take the good and the bad. We want to play it with our friends. We understand that this is the thing in work, and that you guys are gonna fix this going into next week. It's just I was just trying to make sure it's the best foot forward in terms of presentation because it's like this, like the guy is like literally having a stroke, and I gotta send him back. Oh my god. Are they hitting the thing? Oh, okay. Yeah, go back to base. Yeah, that's over with. Let's just make sure I don't lose my only holdout. Is there space in there? I don't. Let me see. No, they can't land on that slope. I don't think they can. I have to talk to Derek about that. That's probably a slope that. Yeah, they can't land on that slope. We got to fix that. Why don't you cover their retreat? They can't hurt you. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, cool. And then why don't you guys go that way? And I need to stop panic clicking. Okay, so we're going to get back to the base and lick your wounds. Y'all are going to sit here. Are they out of ammo? No, he's doing his job. Okay, good. Go to the next corner. Cover. You can see right there they're launching investigations of like, oh, they're retreating. We must scurry the area and find them. You know, kind of deal. Oh, there they are. Stop running. Oh, God. Are you out of ammo? Oh, no. Damn it. That's the other thing is that not having the ammo call in and the vehicles is like deadly because you can't get them back in some. What in the? Oh, I forgot to land him, didn't I? Awkward. Yeah, he's dead. He ran out of gas. Let's get them some ammo, and then we'll conclude it there. We'll move on to the Q&A. We'll release it for you guys to play, and you guys can tell us your feedback on Steam and Discord, because I'm sure there's going to be some issues, but just be aware of that. This is an early build. We still need time to work through these issues. We're 2 programmers, and typically a team like this would have a dozen, if not 2 dozen, like Broken Arrow and whatnot. So just bear with us. We're working through these issues. And as you run into those issues, let us know. On Steam, on Discord. Make sure you're tagging your title so we can find it quickly and effectively. But we're going to power through it. So now I'm going to open it up for the Q&A so we can see what kind of questions you guys might have. And then basically move from there. So what do we have for questions? We'll give it a good 10 to 15 minutes if it doesn't die down. What do we got on YouTube's? Yeah, I agree with you, Elite. That is something that we are aware of. That is something that we are actively looking into. It just comes down to a manpower thing right now. Is I'm trying to get the base pandemic and all that in there. I might talk to Derek, or I might sneak it in there just to hide all of them by default. It's not that hard of a change. So at the bare minimum, I think that the minimum thing I'm going to do is just hide the UIs for those. And then you'll have to just talk to your RTS players. The whole name of the game is communication. Correlation, strategy. So like you figure it's one of those things where like it's not that big of a deal to buy us the time for a couple weeks to get some kind of UI or centric thing set up, so it's easier for people to understand like the information to kind of make the right decisions of like, oh, we're losing Charlie D. So then you would know, oh, the infection level is this. I need to pick up from a helicopter. Helicopter comes, you jump on the little bird with the operator. Your friends can drop you off by the land feature. And then you figure at that point, you can do your thing. Then an RTS player can come back, pick you up, and then you can go to the next zone. So there's always going to be that level of communication that you're going to have. So I want to make sure we're hitting on that. Let me write that down as a thing, and let me see if Derek can try and sneak it in going to this weekend or early next week. Can we hide the UI text whenever in operator by default? Okay, so I sent that out. Let's see if we can get that in going into this weekend or early next week and get that situated, because I feel your pain. That looks bad. Now that we actually have pandemic playable where everyone's playing as the operator and we're just kind of having that kind of fun, it's just a little bit overwhelming. Okay, what do we else have for YouTube? It could be cool is if you press Alt and it will show up UI in the population. That's another good idea. I do like that. I was looking at games like Ready or Not, where they have the little tactical computer that they pull up from their chest and they read. I would like to do something with the tactical computer they have on their wristband, but I'll keep that as an ultimate suggestion. I got to talk to Michael from an animation standpoint and a character modeling standpoint, and I got to talk to Derek, and we'll come up with some kind of idea to make it more integrated into the game, more seamless. Because when you press M and you bring up that map, that's basically her putting her, like if you look at an operator when a human being is playing as the operator and you press the M key, they're bringing up their wrist like a pit boy, like a tactical computer like the military uses in real life to read data, read information, blah, blah, blah. So I would like to integrate it like that, similar to what Division does, but with the watches, but we'll figure that out. Like in Bannerlord, show less if you don't care, show more. Alt V. Which Bannerlord are you talking about? Bannerlord 2? Because I can play that and get some more reference on that. And then make it more like a Bannerlord. Okay, yeah. Let me know, Ellie, what Bannerlord you're talking about, and I'll look into that. Or if you have a video on the site, I'll check that out. Because like you figure, I'm always keen to just kind of see what other people are doing and just kind of make tweaks based off of that if like they're doing something better in terms of like, overall like aesthetic design or whatever. Yeah, a diegetic HUD like in Dead Space. I love diegetic HUDs. So wherever I can do that, I want to do it for the operator. Because the diegetic HUD is basically anything that's like in the world superimposed in the 3D. Like like on a computer you open up like in Fallout kind of deal. Okay, so what kind of questions do we have for any of the other stuff that's going on before we wrap this up and just kind of move on to the next thing? Bannerlord. Do I have that one? Let me check. Oh, I have Warband. I never bought Bannerlord. I have like 50 hours on that game. God damn. Okay, I'll look into that. I'll look it up on YouTube. I do some research into that. Okay, I'll look into that. Okay, do we have any other questions before we wrap up today's thing and then we push on to releasing it so you guys can play test it yourself? I don't believe so. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark that build under a build called private playtest. Actually, no, I'll do the limited one because that doesn't require a password. Okay, so the build I just played. Oh, well, ask your question, Bobby, and then they can basically just basically go download. It's still a 6 GB update, so I mean they're going to be downloading while the sick broadcast is running anyhow. So there's about a 6 to 7 gig update depending on the current state of the game and if what branch you're in. It's on the opt-ins. So if you want to try out co-op with your friends with what I just played, right click the game, go to public limited test. You might have to close or reopen Steam to force it to get the beta. It's going to be right click, properties, beta, and then choose, where is it? Mine doesn't even show up in mine yet. Yeah, you definitely have to close and reopen Steam. Let me see if I can get my Steam to open and just make sure it is public. Sometimes it delays. Yeah, there it is. Public playtest limited. So it's at the top of the list when you first close or reopen Steam. If you wait a certain period of time, it will also auto publish. Let me see what is question. Okay. All right. So then that's pretty much it. Have fun. Give it a try. Let me know what you guys think on Steam and Discord. I'll leave it open for a couple of hours going into midnight. If everything seems good and people aren't that worried about the issues, that we could just leave it out for a couple of days as a separate branch. It's just I'm conscious of the issues on that branch. Again, thank you guys for coming to the Cirque broadcast today. We greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to see what we've been doing over the course of this week. If you want to consider supporting the team additionally, you could maybe check out our Patreon, our merch, or any of the support packs we have on Steam. All of them greatly help. They help us basically focus the project more off of our day jobs. We're a small team of like 5 devs. But we're doing the best we can with the resources that are available to us. So we ask for a little bit more patience as we are working through these hurdles of getting the pandemic and phase 2 done. One thing that I do want to add as an outro is that we are considering changing the roadmap for next month to do vehicles instead of the instead of the dynamic civilian groups and the civilian evacuation. Is that playing pandemic with people has basically kind of like cemented the fact that we need vehicles right fucking now, because you figure it's just too hard to play the game in some cases with just the mobility and the sheer size that the infected can bring to bear, but you can't. One thing that we were hoping to do was during the civilian evacuation and dynamic civilian groups in October, but I feel at this point the best utilization of our resources is to just finish the helicopters, finish pandemic for the juggernaut and lieutenants, the polish and the other things that'll come in this month, and then next month just do the vehicles. Do one tracked vehicle, like the Bradley or the Abrams. Do the MRS, and then do one of the 4 wheels. So like the JOTV or the Hummer, we'll do one of those to get the wheeled vehicles feeling right. Then we do one track vehicle like the Abrams or the Bradley or the Stryker, and then we do one artillery unit, which will form the basis of all the Stryker version of the mortar. Because I went over this briefly with some of the Patreons earlier in the channel, but the MRS is basically was in the the legacy version was the precursor to having a real world trajectory for bullets. Sorry, for the artillery, is that it actually uses like real world math and calculations, and those shells are actually physical projectiles that are being hurled thousands of feet to their direction. Well, you had the striker mortar, and you had the old artillery cannon that you could build that was stationary. Those were faked. We would spawn an explosion at the barrel, and then we would spawn a grenade and drop that grenade with different settings at the location where the airstrike landed. With the MRS, we took a completely different approach that we wanted to make it more realistic and actually have it to where like line of sight and arcing actually mattered. So like where you place the MRS, it will hit the roof above you. So it's one of those things where like we want to get those 3 incubators in next month, and then polish them, get the pathfinding, get the targeting computers working, get it so the operator could drive in them, not drive, ride passenger. And then from there, scale up like we did the other helicopters. Right now, you're starting to see us put the other helicopters in. Now that we've gotten the Little Bird mostly situated, and now we're running into some small little issues as we scale them up with the garrison system and like the movement and like a little more quality of life needed here and there. So we'll address that. And the idea is we'll take the same approach when it comes to the ground vehicles, so we can give the entire month of October just for getting the first ones in, getting the pathfinding and those 3 perfect. And then once we're happy with those 3, you guys are happy with the pathfinding and the formation system of joint movement between helicopters, vehicles, and ground units, and then we'd start bringing over the other units, like the JLTV, the Striker, the depending on which one we pick, the Bradley. I can't think of the other vehicles right now; they escape me. But you get the point. So it's going to be a solid progressional loop as we go through next month. And that's a big thing that I've wanted to kind of hit on is that, yeah, I think that civilian evacuation and dynamic civilian groups are nice, but they're not the core of the game. And right now, we need to focus on getting it back to the core, solidify that core, make sure it's bugless, make sure it plays perfectly in co-op, make sure there's no gleaming issues, and then we can move on to civilian evacuation and dynamic civilian groups on that basis of like now the evacuation buses have all the battle testing and all the refinements that we've done to the base driving AI, where they're not fucking batshit crazy that they are in the legacy build. Because like the legacy build, they can roll down a hill sometimes because they don't understand they can't go up that hill because of physics, the acceleration. So it's one of those things where like we're conscious of that, and now that we're playing it, we're like, yeah, that's not gonna really work. And my understanding is the perception in the community anyway is people want fucking vehicles right now. They want the Bradley, the Abrams. They want what's in the legacy ported over and fixed ASAP. So just keep that in mind. That's what we're going to be going into for October is that shift. So how that's going to work out, just to kind of leave you guys on that. You guys can talk about that on YouTube and Steam, and I'll make a news post about this later tonight or tomorrow, is that October would be vehicle month. And then if we get to all the vehicles and the pathfinding sexy and it's perfect, which is going to be the goal by the Halloween sale, then we would move into November for doctrines. And then doctrines won't take us that long once the vehicles are done. And then November, December would be civilian evacuation and dynamic civilian groups. And that would round out the year for finishing the rebuild. And the game is able to essentially completely replace the old one. Now, one thing that we are talking about is at the point where we get the vehicles in, we think that we're going to flip the builds and that the rebuild will be the base game you install. And then if you want to play civilian evacuation or the dynamic civilian groups, then you can go and do a beta opt-in. Because we want to get as many people as possible on the base game the moment it's solidified and solid. And then those 2 last elements will be ported over and updated with the same amount of tenacity and patience that we've done for the other systems for that. So just keep in mind that's another idea that we're thinking of. We think that we'll be able to make that merge sometime next month of flipping them. So then that way the co-op is the basic build. Because by then the HUD will be textured. It'll be looking sexy like a next gen like level. So you'll get that at least. And then we'll have Treasure Island for Angel and Treasure Island. You'll have San Francisco you can see in the foreground, but you won't be able to go there yet until October to December. We'll have the vehicles in. So then that way you'll be able to play that and we'll focus on that until they're done and work with the community to make sure all the bells and whistles are working and hunt down all of the weird oddities with their pathfinding. So that's generally the plan going into the ending of this month, going into next month with whatever bugs or other issues pop up. Because as you heard earlier, Derek and I have been hardening the logging in this early build to showcase any bugs or any issues or any desyncs so that way you guys can report them to us and then we can fix them quickly and then get back onto the main line items because there's going to be a little bit of detours here and there as things present themselves that we didn't even know were a problem and now they are a problem. Excuse me. So just keep in mind of that. And again, thank you guys so much for coming and you guys have a great